Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000. I'm coming at you with an interesting video for you. A very passionate video today. I want to talk about the final episode of Alone, Season 3. This was an amazing episode, but more specifically, I want to cater this video towards Dave and Carly, because these are the ones that never quit, and I want to give some deep thoughts on what I feel and what I think about what happened on Alone on that final episode. Obviously, we know that Fowler won the show, so big props to Fowler. Congratulations on an epic performance. But I want to talk about Carly and Dave and how they got pulled and what my thoughts are on each of those getting pulled, and more specifically on the final episode where Carly got pulled from the show. Now, I've got some notes here that I'm going to read. This video is going to be fairly short, but I did some research on BMI, which is your body mass index, okay? And this is what they pulled her from. And it says here, to have a BMI under 18.5, it's considered very underweight and possibly malnourished. Okay, now the show allowed them to go lower than 18.5. They allowed them to go to 17, and if they got to 17 or lower, they were pulled from the show. Now, it says here, a BMI of 18.5 all the way up to 24.9 is within a healthy weight range for young and middle-aged adults. However, if your BMI is between 25 and 29.9, it's considered overweight, and any BMI that's over 30 is considered obese. So now, when we talk about me personally, for me to have a BMI, I'm 5'8", okay? 5'8" inches. Right now, I walk around about 185 pounds, and I feel that my body weight is average. That would put my BMI to 28.1. Now, if you look at their little spectrum here, 28.1 is considered overweight. So now, if I was to lower my BMI down to the normal range, which is between 18.5 and 24.9, that means my body weight on the low side of normal, which is 18.5 BMI, my body weight would have to get down to 121.5 pounds. I'd be a skeleton. And that would be considered normal on the low side. Now, for my body weight and my BMI to be normal on the high end, which was 24.9 BMI, I'd weigh around 164 pounds. So anywhere between 121.5 all the way up to 164 for my frame is considered normal. Now, what's overweight for my frame? 5'8". From 25 to 29 BMI. 25 BMI, my frame, 164.7 pounds. So just under 165 pounds. That's overweight on the low side. Now, overweight on the high side, at 29 BMI, my body weight would be 191 pounds. So again, anything from 164.7 all the way up to 191, I'm considered overweight at that point. Now, if my BMI is 30 or more, then my body weight would be 197 or more. And that would be considered obese for my frame. Now, I've weighed 200 pounds before, and I never looked at myself in the mirror as being obese. My friends, co-workers, they never saw me as being obese. Okay, so in my opinion, the BMI as a measurement tool to a person's health, in my opinion, is not accurate at all. It's not. If you look at BMI, okay, and if you were to get me down to 17, which would put me at the point of getting medically pulled, my body weight at 5'8" tall, my body weight would have to go down to 112 pounds. That would be a skeleton. But remember, normal on the low side at 18.5 BMI was 121 pounds for my frame. Now, if I was to go down to 16.8 BMI, which is where Carly was when she got pulled, my BMI, my body weight would be 110.5 pounds. I would be medically dropped. Now think about this. If I was 1 inch shorter, if I was not 5'8", if I was 5'7", okay, weighing the same weight, 110.5 pounds, my BMI would go up to 17.3 and I'd be in there still. If I went up to 112 pounds, which was 17 BMI at my height, but I deduct 1 inch and I'm 5'7" now, 112 pounds at 5'7" is 17.5 BMI. I'm still on the show. Now let's think about this. If I was 1 inch taller, let's say for example I was 5'9" tall. If I weighed 112 pounds, which you know would have got me pulled at 5'8", but it would have let me stay at 5'7", 112 pounds at 5'9" would have made me 16.5 BMI and I would have been pulled. Now let's move forward. If I was weighing it at 110.5 pounds at 5'7", I would have been okay. I would have been at 17.3, and at 5'8", I would have been at 16.8 and getting pulled medically. But if I was 5'9", 16.3, I would have got pulled. So you're probably wondering, what does all this have to do with Carly? What does this have to do with Dave? Well, let's talk about starvation. Okay, they're saying that this BMI thing is why they're pulling people for Carly. And I understand about stopping a person, you know, and I referred to the stoppage of Dave as a just stoppage because I think of it as fighting. When a fighter can't intelligently defend himself, what happens? The referee stops, he intervenes, he stops the fight to ensure the fighter's safety, okay? So when Dave was demonstrating all these things that was making him unintelligently defending himself, which he was walking around losing his balance. He was walking around hallucinating and looking at the trees and saying that the trees were talking to him. And he was hoarding all these food. All three of those things are significant symptoms that he is displaying very, very vibrantly that he is suffering from heavy starvation. And so in my opinion, the stoppage of them intervening for Dave, because again, like a referee in a fight, he wasn't intelligently defending himself, so they stepped in to intelligently defend himself for himself, protecting him from himself. I still believe that them pulling him was a just stoppage. He was demonstrating a lot of things, and I have no clue what his BMI was or whatever, but he lost a lot of weight and he was looking very, very bad, and he was slurring his speech, and he was just out of it. And I mean no disrespect to him at all. I think that the show had to protect the contestants, meaning Dave, and I think they did the good thing for him. But when it comes to Carly, I 100% disagree with the way they stopped it. I think it was completely wrong. I think Fowler still would have won. I think Carly would have still either tapped or been pulled, because maybe eventually she would have started to demonstrate losing her balance. Maybe they saw that it was inevitable for her, and they intervened. They had to keep her, you know, safe, I guess. But she was not losing her balance. She was not hallucinating. She was not hoarding food. And who's to say that she might have not got a boar or she might have not caught some fish or ate more food, that she might have increased some of her performance. We don't know. So I think for them to pull her was ridiculous. Her weight was 101 pounds. They said that her BMI was 16.8. She made it on 86 days. So that would tell me that her height is about 5'5", because if you do the BMI calculator and you put in 5'5" and you put in 101 pounds, you get 16.8. If she was 5'4", her BMI would have been 17.3. So in my opinion, it's an insignificant way to measure the well-being of a participant. In my humble opinion, I think when you're gonna, there's $500,000 on the line here, $500,000, and I think instead of just doing a numbers thing, I think these pools, these medical pools, need to be done on a case-by-case basis by walking out there and observing the individual. If they would have walked over there and looked at Dave and they see him stumbling around and he's talking all kinds of nonsense and he's hoarding food, they could have said, okay, you know what, dude, we've seen enough. Sorry, we're pulling you, we're protecting you. Good deal. It would have been a good stoppage, just like it was with Dave. If they would have done that for Carly and went over and observed her, she's not hoarding food. She's not hallucinating. She's not losing her balance. She's holding it together. I think they would have let her continue. Now, would that have made her win the show? I don't know. Which brings up another thought. And I said this again, and I'm looking down at my notes. It says, I don't think this is an effective measurement to a person's well-being. Now, when it comes to a loan, and what's happening here is we're obviously seeing a straw weight lose to a heavyweight. Okay? And I'm thinking about Ultimate Fighting Championships. I'm thinking about the early days of the UFC, when they first started the UFC, and they put everybody, there was no weight classes, no time limits and all this stuff. And what happened? They learned that when you have two fighters that have equal technical ability, that weight at that moment does matter, and it does make a significant difference. When the technical level is equal on both fighters, then weight is an advantage. So what did they do in the UFC? They established weight divisions to make this thing an even playing field. Fowler lost 70 pounds on the show. And I'm not taking anything from him. He did an epic journey out there. It was an amazing performance. I'm not taking nothing from him. But what I am saying is you have Carly, who lost 30% of her body weight, versus Fowler, who lost 33% of his body weight. Carly lost less. But he won because he started off with 70 pounds of cushion to burn, and she didn't have that. She's a straw weight, he's a heavyweight. Of course, when they both have equal skills, and I wrote this down, it says a higher body fat content type of structure person takes longer for starvation to set in, and they deteriorate at a slower rate than a person who's thinner like Carly. So my recommendation for the show of Alone for future seasons is to establish some sort of weight class so that we don't have this unbalanced, this unbiased, this unfair. Carly, if she would have been competing against people her size, similar to her body stats, she would have knocked him out. She would have won clearly. But she's competing with a heavyweight. So here's my final thought on myself as trying to be a future participant. History Channel, if you're watching, Alone producers, if you're watching, I want you to hear this, and I want you to hear this loud and clear. I still want to go on the show, even with no weight class, okay? I'm still confident enough in my strategies and my techniques. I think that I can still do very well on the show, and I'm still wanting to go. But if this does not change after season 4, I don't think that I'll be interested in going for season 5, because it really does put you at an unfair advantage. If you have an obese person who has a lot of skill versus a smaller person who has a lot of skill, there is a disadvantage for the smaller person. Those are just my thoughts. I could be right, I could be wrong, but I disagree with the stoppage of Carly. Maybe they think differently. Maybe they think she was going downhill and she was going to continue to go downhill. Maybe they were stopping preventative maintenance kind of thing. Maybe they didn't want her to go slip into a dangerous level. You know, I don't know. But I just feel that she gave it everything she had. She's got my vote. She's a champion in my eyes. And, you know, she competed against a heavyweight that was about to get pulled himself medically. And that says a lot about her. It really does. And if you know, you got to give her tons of respect. She's got tons of bragging rights. And, yeah, I think she did amazing. But I would like to see weight classes. I'm not saying that because I'm trying to go. Go ahead, put me in there with no weight class. That's fine. But as the show in the future, I hope to see that they establish something that would make this show more fair amongst the participants. Now, there's 2 people that I want to give a shout out to, and they're fellow YouTubers that are friends of mine that are passionate about Alone just as much, if not more, than me. And one of them is the Bearded Woodsman, or the Wooded Beardsman. I mess up his name all the time. But he knows what he's talking about, just like I believe I know what I'm talking about. And there's another individual called what's his channel name? Something Trekker. Humble Trekker, I think's his name. I'll put their channels in the description box down below. You can check them out. They know what they're talking about, and I'm in agreement with both of them on their thoughts on Alone. I've watched a lot of their content, and both of these guys, thumbs up from me. I respect you guys, and I think you guys are hitting on the right. I think you guys are hitting the nail right on the head. So it's a pleasure to watch your guys' videos and the work that you guys do, and thank you for that. And I hope that you guys feel the same about me and the content that I bring in relation to Alone. So folks, I want to say thank you for joining me. I hope you got some good, useful information out of this video. Please feel free to leave your thoughts down below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is this a good idea, bad idea? And please feel free to share this video, like this video, and if you like the content you see on my channel, please subscribe. And keep me in your prayers, please. I want to go on season 4. No weight class. I'm ready. I'm ready. I mean it. I'm ready. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.